Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mandy, the Handmade Homeschooler, and today I have some basic tips and things to help you whether you are new at this, new at homeschooling, or if you're like me and you've been doing this for years. I have a couple of things that are kind of those I wish I knew that earlier type of thing. I feel like we could all use either a reminder of these or someone just outright telling us this, because a lot of these things you tend to learn as you go, like learn by doing, and having so many years of experience in the classroom and then as a homeschool parent, I've learned a lot. And I've been able to take some of those skills that I learned in the classroom and really apply it here in our homeschool. So we're gonna go over some of those, and I would love to know down in the comments, what is something that you wish that you knew earlier in your homeschooling journey? Tell me down below. All right, so we're gonna jump right into this, but if you haven't yet, make sure you check out the free Christian homeschooling Facebook group down below in my description box. I also have links to free homeschooling curriculum if you wanna give that a try too. All right, first, this one was really hard for me to grasp as somebody who taught in the classroom. You do not have to spend an hour on every subject for your child to learn it. So coming from the classroom experience, I'm used to long school days, public schooling. I'm used to very long school days and spending, 45 minutes to an hour on each subject. So when I came into the homeschool world and we only spent, sometimes 15 minutes on something like fix-it grammar, or a half hour on a subject, that seemed like too short to me. That was really hard for me to wrap my brain around for some reason. And I know a lot of people, and I know a lot of you, just by speaking with you in the group and everything, a lot of you are like me and come from a public school background. So the thought and the concept of only spending a concentrated short time on a subject is really difficult. And then we wonder, are they learning enough? Am I doing enough? Do I need to add more? And a lot of times the answer is no, you don't. So while we want to have a good, solid subject, we don't need to spend an hour on every single subject to make sure that they're learning it. Number two, my biggest fear, oh my goodness. It's okay to go out in the middle of the day, and this is why. More people actually praise us than question us about homeschooling, especially in the post-2020 world after the pandemic. There's a lot of people who switched to homeschooling, a lot of people, and a lot more than I realized. And there's a lot of people who, even if they didn't switch to homeschooling, they're either really interested in it, and most of the time they actually ask a lot of questions because they're interested in it and not because they're like quizzing us and making sure that we're doing school, It's more like, oh, tell me more about this because I'm really interested in it. And you'll find that if you're really objective to talking to people about that and open to receiving those type of questions, that you could have a lot of great conversations with even total strangers at the grocery store. So don't automatically shut down questions about homeschooling from people that you may not know, like strangers, because a lot of times they're actually interested in doing it themselves. Case in point, my son was in the ambulance with the EMTs. I'm going to talk about more about that later. He has a blood condition that we just found out about, and it was absolutely crazy. And if you follow me on social media, especially my Instagram, you probably saw a lot about that. He's okay. I'm just gonna say that he's okay, but for the sake of this point here, the EMTs were asking him about where he went to school, and he said, oh, I'm homeschooled. My mom homeschools me. And the EMTs, they were like, oh, that's so cool. Like, tell me more about this. And he told me that, because I wasn't allowed to go in the ambulance with him, Jacob told me that he was telling them all about homeschool, and some of the EMTs, they were like, man, I wish I could do that. I can't because they're, it's a two-parent working home, that type of thing. And, he told them all about homeschool, and it was really cool. So not everybody is looking to, quiz your kids. A lot of people are just really interested in what you do. And his new doctor at the hospital, when we got there, he thought it was the coolest thing that we homeschool the kids. So don't be afraid to talk about homeschooling. Be proud of it, guys. Be absolutely proud that you homeschool. So the next point, homeschooling strengthened my family. Now, a lot of people tend to worry like all this together time is gonna make everybody fight. Like how much time can a family spend together? So get this, my husband is retired from the military, so he's home all day, which has been, you know, a different adjustment for all of us. And I'm home all day and the kids are home all day. So our whole family is home all day together. And a lot of people get worried that it's going to cause a lot of fighting between the kids and the parents and it's just too much together time. Don't be worried about that, because homeschooling, when we really figured out and nailed down our schedule and got used to it, really strengthened our family. It did not tear us apart. It did not cause a lot of fighting. And it's something that we really enjoy, and it's something that we as a family can all do together, and we can learn together and grow together. Next one, I talk about this a lot on Instagram. You do not need to finish the curriculum. You don't. I promise you. A lot of our books are really big, okay? And sometimes we either want to go off in another direction in that subject. Sometimes we want to do a unit study maybe on something in that subject. And sometimes there's just not enough days to get through the entire book in 36 weeks. That is okay. The only time that you really need to finish the curriculum, and a lot of times it's not even necessary to do this, is when it's a prerequisite to the next course. And a lot of times that's going to deal with math. So a lot of times you don't really need to finish the entire book. And just as a bonus here, most public school teachers never finish the curriculum. So relax. It's okay. I promise you don't really need to finish that book. And even when they get into high school, most states are going to count the hours that they spent in that subject as the credit rather than whether or not they finished the book. They're never gonna know if you finished the book. Learning environment matters. So you don't really need a homeschooling room, but you do need some kind of, I think, quiet space. And think about this, just think about this for a second. If you're reading a book, how hard is it to read a book if there's noise going on, if there's a lot of things going on? Your kids need a space where they feel like they can concentrate and they can do what they need to do. So whether that is at your kitchen table, on the couch, or even in their bedroom, they do need kind of like that dedicated learning space and learning environment. But they don't need a dedicated homeschooling room. But the environment does matter, which is why a lot of times I have these ambience videos on my channel for you to play in the background. I'm one of those people, and my kids are the kind of like that too, where just real quiet, like piano or classical music in the background, that actually helps me concentrate more. And I have found that it really sets the tone of my home as well. It creates like this beautiful, relaxing environment rather than having something on like the news or, you know, something like that, or even just absolute silence. I feel like I can hear a pin drop sometimes and it drives me crazy. So I like to have on something in the background that just kind of soothes and has, you know, that really nice atmosphere, and it really calms my house down. I'll put on one of those. I will open the blinds and have the nice sunlight in. I will make sure that everything is quiet, nobody's talking really loud, and you know, that really helps my kids, whether they're in here at the kitchen table or even in their bedroom learning. So another point I'd like to make is my kids have become much healthier since coming out of public school. Public school is a germ factory. I'm just gonna say it. There is so many germs, and my kids, my oldest was sick constantly. I mean, constantly. And they have like this policy, and this was pre-pandemic, okay? They would constantly send my oldest home if he had the sniffles. It would drive me nuts. And a lot of times it was just allergies. And they even got to a point where they sent him home so many times, and I'm not joking, they gave me a note that said that he was gonna have to repeat the grade if he missed one more day. But I wasn't the one keeping him home. They were sending him home without a fever, without really any sickness, but because he sneezed one time in class. Even if he sneezed, they would send him to the nurse, and the nurse would call me to come pick him up. It would drive me nuts. We lived in Missouri at the time, and it was like in the Mark Twain National Forest. If you look up where the base was, where we were stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, and this school constantly sent him home. He and I both had some kind of crazy allergy to something out there. I had an allergy. I know I was allergic to the cottonwood trees, and I would just sneeze all the time. I'm not sure what he was allergic to. We never really figured it out before we ended up leaving and coming here to this base, but it was just an allergy. You know, he was never really sick. But they would send him home anyway, and they told me he was gonna have to repeat 3rd grade, and I was like, this is absolute insanity. Like, he's fine, you know? Like, even when I taught, I never would have sent kids to the nurse for that type of stuff. You know, that was just... But when I brought the kids home and said, okay, we're homeschooling, all of a sudden, he never really got sick again. Like, my kids would get sick like 1 time a year with an actual cold. I mean, they had allergies. They still have allergies. I have allergies. Runs in the family. But he stopped getting like sick as well. And you know, they weren't very sick. They weren't sick very often to begin with, but most of the sickness in the house went away. And you know what? I got healthier too because they weren't passing the germs to me. So that was one of my favorite things, to be honest, because my immune system isn't that great. So I would constantly get whatever germs they were taking home with them and sharing with me. So the whole house was healthier, which was such a great thing. And the last one that I really want to say, and this one is one of those, like, it's good, but it's hard at the same time. It really is. It's like one of those mama things, you know? The kids are going to need you less as they get older, and that's not a bad thing. So my oldest is in 10th grade this year, and my youngest is in 6th grade, but he's doing a lot of 7th grade work too. They are both very independent learners, and they enjoy learning that way. They have taught themselves how to learn on their own. And that's not a bad thing. That's actually something that we want to teach them how to do. We don't want them to have to rely on somebody to hold their hand to teach them something in a book, or to have to read it and do instruction on everything. We don't want that. We want them to be independent learners, because if they're gonna go off to college, they're gonna need those skills. They're gonna need those life skills. They're gonna have to learn how to teach themselves. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job on that. I've done a really good job on teaching them independence, and you know, it's kind of like a thing of necessity at my house, because I do have a couple of chronic illnesses, and there's a lot of days that I can't teach. So it's been a good skill for them to learn, but as they get older, they need me less and less. And I've become more of like a manager of the homeschool rather than an instructor of all the things. And while we still have discussions and I still teach some things, I'm not like over their shoulder anymore like I was when they were little. And that's so hard sometimes, because I want to do that, right? Like my mama heart wants to be in every aspect of teaching and of their homeschool, and you know, I want to be the center of it. And I have to learn, and I've had to teach myself to kind of let go and let them do what they're doing. And as long as their grades are really good and they're understanding the material, they might not need me. And it's been an interesting experience for me as a mom. So kind of go into it knowing that you know, you're gonna back away slowly each year, a little bit more and more. And as they get older, they will not need you as much, but that's not a bad thing. That is actually a good thing. You want them to learn how to be independent learners. It is a skill that they need to learn, and teaching them how to study, teaching them how to teach themselves, and teaching them how to research things is a good thing, you know, that they're gonna need when they get older. So parents of teens, can you relate? Let me know if you can relate down in the comments, because sometimes I feel like I just need a hug from another mom. Alright guys, that is all I have for today's video. Let me know in the comments, like I said before, let me know what is something that you have learned on this journey about homeschooling. What is one of those things that you want to tell other homeschool moms about homeschooling? Give me your best tips down below. Maybe we'll share some in an upcoming video. That would be really fun. Alright, I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and happy homeschooling.